Hello and welcome to Naked Heart Videos. I'm Heidi Alfrey and today we're answering the question, what is the real meaning of the word security? Most of us, when we think about the word security, think it's something outside of us that we're going to attain. Money, prestige, achievement. And today, with my friend Wilson Smith, we're going to prove that security is an inside job. Wilson is a poet, an author, a performer, and recently had the courage to create space for this brilliance that is in him to be revealed to the world. And he resigned from the job, no pun intended, of a security guard. So, Wilson, are you ready to get naked?
I am.
Oh, beautiful. So, tell me about your journey to the into your spiritual path, because we know that when we're talking about security, we're talking about it as a spiritual truth, as a fact of living. And many of us have been really confused about things being an inside job rather than something outside of us. So how did you come into the world and what did you learn about security?
I came through a vacation going to DC.
Oh, and this was to Unity. Yeah, right. Okay, to your spiritual center. Okay.
A friend of mine called and said, come to DC, and so I came for the weekend. And he said also bring some church clothes. Now when he said church clothes, I was like, because I came through Pentecostal church with my grandmother, and that was something we would have to do when we spent the weekend with her, bring church clothes. So I was like, I'm not ready for this, but I went on and brought the church clothes.
So, because the church wasn't a positive experience for you as a young person, okay? And tell me, why was that? What was going on there that...
It was a beat up, as I call it, beat up church. You went there, and after you were done, you felt like you were beat up, you know, because everything you did was wrong. So my experience was, I don't want that. I'm kind of getting beat up.
Great. So when, again, with security, right, then if you're getting beat up, obviously you don't look within yourself for the answers. All right.
Because you feel like you're not worthy.
Right.
Of this. Whatever's happening, this spiritual thing that's happening, it's not for you.
Okay, so even though we're created in the image and likeness of God, it's not inside of you.
No, because you were getting beat up.
Okay,
so God had gloves on, he was beating me up.
Okay.
So when I went to DC...
So you hadn't gone to church for a while in your... Before this, and what was your age when you...
18. That was the legal age that you can stop going to church in my family.
Okay. 18. And so what year was this that you were invited to go to church again?
Had to be in my early 30s.
Okay.
You know?
All right.
And so just the sound of church, you know, just did not go well with me.
Because getting beat up is...
It's getting beat up.
All right.
You know? So I went there thinking I was going to get beat up. And in DC, as you know, you walk. So here I am walking, and I would see these signs saying Unity. And I got there, and it was a totally different experience for me. It was acceptance that I never had. It was people who really genuinely wanted to know about me. And we meditated, something that I never have done either. But it was an experience that uplifted me. I felt light. So when I get back home to Kansas City, there's an article in the newspaper about Unity and where it started. And I stayed right down the street from the main headquarters church. So I said, okay, next Sunday I'm gonna go. So I got on my church clothes and I went to Unity, and it was a totally different experience because in DC it was mainly African American. In Kansas City it was white. So I was like, okay, am I gonna have the same experience? But I did.
Because guess what? We're all in this together.
Exactly.
Right.
And it wasn't the same thing. Was uplifting. It wasn't the beat up religion that I grew up with. There was no one telling me that I wasn't worthy.
What a concept.
The sermon was about baggage. all the baggage you had been carrying all your life.
And didn't you say the minister walked out with a bag over?
With a bag, and he threw it off, and he said, "That's all the baggage you've been carrying all your life." And for me, that was like an aha moment. Like, yes, I've been carrying all this baggage around for me.
Right, and you realize at that moment, and this is, of course, what we're talking about in Let's Get Naked, is that you have a choice. You know, in that we were all born naked, and you're born with talents and gifts, and then when you get beat up, you forget these things. You feel like, well, I must be unworthy, so I'm not going to even think about what my gifts and talents are.
Exactly.
And so thank heavens there's places like churches and spiritual communities that really remind you nothing's ever been wrong with you, and nothing's wrong with you. And so through that opportunity of this awakening, what emerged from that?
Love. Love of me. Something that I had been missing for a long time. You know, searching for it, not knowing how to search for it, not knowing that all along it was right there within me.
Right.
No one had taught me that.
Yeah, the last place you were going to look.
Exactly.
Right.
Because it was either there, it was down there, but it wasn't within me.
Beautiful.
You know.
So tell me then, the journey then in your career life, in your work life, because this is what I've seen you, witnessed you take a huge leap of faith. And so tell me about your employment, and were you connected to the work that you had at the time?
Through all my career, it's always been I got promoted because of my personality. People loved me, you know, and I had this great personality. I can win you over in an interview. Matter of fact, I always knew when I went for an interview I was going to get the job, because I knew I was the funny guy. I told them what they wanted to hear, but deep down it was just a job. It wasn't what I loved. It wasn't what I had a passion for. It was just a job.
Well, great. And maybe when you're talking about they love me for my personality, was the personality in itself a bit of an act, would you say, to get someone to like you rather than just I like me? And
exactly. It was a pretense. You know, it was a pretense. I could put on the face, the makeup, you name it. I was the clown, as you want to say. I could put on the uniform and everything, but it was all pretense, because inside, emotionally, I was going through so much, you know. And I got these high-paying jobs. They paid me well. I was able to buy the clothes, the car, the house, all the things that I bought to comfort me, you know, because I didn't want to deal with me. I didn't want to deal with the pain. And if I didn't like that job, I got another job. And it was the same thing. I went to work, but I wasn't liking them. It wasn't me. It's not what I wanted to do. But they paid well. And they gave me the lifestyle, the pretense of being happy in this lifestyle. So as long as I can keep buying, I wasn't going to let these jobs go, you know, or I would let it go, but I would get another one that was similar to it, you know?
Because you hadn't been able to see inside yourself enough to know who you truly were, to stop long enough, like that meditation that you were exposed to.
Exactly.
Right, right. And where do you think that came from? I know you've talked a bit about your upbringing. Did you have an upbringing that was supportive of you creatively?
At first, but when you have parents...
does everyone have parents?
Yeah.
we are all, exactly. We're all
functioning parents.
Yes, and this is what's interesting about everyone when you consider your family upbringing, is that parents are people. And so a lot of them have baggage just from their families in which they grew up. So your parents, I guess, were challenged, you were saying, as people.
I think it was the history that we all do. They were pretending also, and that's where I learned it. But they wasn't happy, and so eventually my mother became an alcoholic. My father got on drugs and became a drug addict. And so in the midst of that, things were said. You're not good enough. I wish you wasn't born. You'll never make it. You know, you're stupid. You're this, you're that. So all those things go inside your head. They go in your mind, and you start believing that this is who I am. You know?
Yes.
And you become an addict, not for drugs or anything. For me, it was searching for love.
Beautiful.
You know?
Beautiful. And it's almost like you become an addict of the false belief.
Exactly.
Because if I am stupid and I'm not worth it, and I do have all these hopeless living situations, then I have to choose something that is also something with which I'm frustrated.
Yes.
Because we'll have to live out that belief until it doesn't work anymore.
Yes.
And so this is what, yeah.
And that's where the pretense becomes, you know, because I didn't want anyone to know my family situation. I didn't want anyone to know who I thought I was. So if I can wear the best clothes, I can do the best, be the best, you know, get the good job, as my family would say, the high paying, then people would know that I was from an addict, you know, and the things that I was doing that was addictive, you know. All this, no one would know who I had became, this big pretense of this person.
Right, and the pretense, when we talk about Let's Get Naked, the beginning of Let's Get Naked is I have to let myself get vulnerable. I have to let myself share with, even if it's one person, something more true about me. That this is what really matters to me. This is what I really care about. And it's almost like the act has to, you really get that I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired, that I can't play this role anymore of trying to please everybody but myself.
And that's what happened. I was pleasing everybody, pretending to be this person, to the point where I just couldn't do it anymore. I hit a wall.
Right, hit a bottom.
Emotionally, my everything was like, we can't do this no more. You have to stop.
Right.
You know?
And so tell me about because you were in this position at the airport, and somehow the book idea or the poems that you've been writing, you've been writing poems all your life? Is that what you said?
All my life. It was a way that I did connect with myself.
Beautiful.
You know, it was away from everybody, where I guess that's where I really started getting naked with myself. Pen to paper.
Right.
I couldn't pretend with the words. The words were the truth, what
Beautiful.
I was actually going through. I didn't share them with anyone, but it was my truth. It was my Bible, I guess you can say.
Beautiful. Very vulnerable, very authentic, very naked. Right.
And one day, I heard on the radio driving about this poetry group that was doing poetry on 18th and Vine. And I said, okay, that's something I may want to do. And that was the start of me going towards the person that I wanted to be. I got into the poetry group. I started, actually it was how I got into the poetry group. I kept calling and saying I want to be in this group. So they got tired of me calling and bugging them. So they said, come down to 18th and Vine and read your poetry. They gave me the address and I walked up and it was a bar. And I was like, okay, I don't think this crowd wants to hear any poetry. And I walked in, there was the members, and they said, okay, go up there on stage, and if you can get them to be quiet, you're in the group. And I read my poetry, and they got quiet, and something inside of me awakened myself, you know? And I was with the group for 5 years, but within that group...
And let's just, right there though, when you felt that sense of people being quiet and listening, what was the new belief that had to be created in that moment?
That people actually wanted to hear what I had to say.
And that it's valuable, right? And that it helped other people, perhaps, that have dealt either with similar things or the sense of passion that you have when you read this poetry. That, because your passion automatically ignites the passion in another person, right?
It moves through the whole crowd.
It does.
You know?
It does. Because spirit ignites spirit. And depression ignites depression, right? So we know that the way that we make the world a better place, if that's what we say we want to do, is to become the most authentic you.
Yes.
And a person that's all about personality to go forward in a job that they don't like is not authentic.
No.
But to stand up and read your poetry, which has been your heart speaking, That's authentic.
Well,
that's passionate.
On that stage and reading my poetry, I couldn't wear the armor that
the mask,
right? You know, that people were getting to see me.
Yes.
You know,
I'm sure that was scary at first.
It was very scary, but each time I got on stage and the acceptance that I got, it helped me even more to start pulling off all these coats and things that I had put on,
right?
You know, to hide my true self.
Beautiful.
You know,
and so you had the naked heart.
Exactly.
Yes, it's great. It's great. So then, what happened with that group?
They wanted to start silencing me. The poetry was too raw. It was too out there, and it got
too raw. You're saying,
mm-hmm. And people started feeling uncomfortable, or they felt uncomfortable, and that's what I was told. So each time I was told, well, can you treat this? Can you do this? Can you not say this? And it got to the point where I was like, no, because this is who I am, and I gotta be who I am. This is the one thing I'm holding on to. This is the one thing that's truly mine, and no one can take it away.
Yes.
So I left the group, and I didn't do poetry anymore. I would write. I would go back to my little sanctuary, which was pen to paper, but to actually speak in front of someone, I stopped doing that. I silenced myself.
Right. So silencing yourself is not sharing your gift.
No.
Right. And so this is why I would imagine that got more and more frustrating.
Well, because I put back on the armor.
Right, right. And this is what, when we're talking about security, you know, we realize that security isn't, again, something that you're trying to shield yourself from the world. It's really the security that I was born with, the gifts that I was born with, and everyone was. Nobody's here just to plop around on the planet and to just, you know, not live with this breath of life that is yours. And so each person, because of our unique thumbprint, has a unique gift. And so I'm so glad that that kept bothering you. So
and that's what it is. It's that little thing inside of you that's saying, this is you. You know this is you. You walk past it. You see yourself in the mirror and you saying, this is me.
This is me.
You know? But why are you constantly putting on things to hide who you are?
Right.
And that's that voice that's saying, I'm ready to break out.
Yes.
You know?
And then you have to have someone around you that says, break out. You know, we'll be here. Okay, well, great. You know, I'm the breakout coach. That's right. So what happened then? Because it's been many years, 20 years for you that you weren't reading this poetry. So, so what is it then that started to transpire for you?
Like I said, I went back to the jobs that I hated. I would do them, I would smile, I would greet people, the whole bit. But inside, I was miserable, you know, because once again, I wasn't living the life that God had put me on this earth to live. And I knew that, you know. By this time, I knew that this was not me. So I kept going to the jobs because once again, they paid the bill, they fed me, you know. I had a paycheck. Right,
it's the outer security.
False security.
Right, and it is not surprising that people believe that's all there is.
Exactly.
Because many people, we will agree with that. You know, well, do your poetry in your spare time.
Exactly.
Right,
and
so
that's what I was told.
Okay.
Do that.
Right.
Know? Why can't you be happy? You know, why you got to do it full time? You got a good job. You don't want to leave that good job.
Right.
You know.
Right. Well, do we see that it's good for somebody else?
Exactly.
But if it's not lined up with you, it can't possibly be good.
No.
Or correct, let's say, for you. All right. So, okay. So, what was it then? An idea of a book was coming, or what was it then?
Well, what happened is I just couldn't do it anymore. I was working at the airport as a security guard, and I got tired of the classes, the mandatory overtime.
And this was after, was this before you had called me, or was this?
This is before I
Okay,
called
all right.
And so I said, I'm going to have to break this cycle. So I had this book that I wrote, and I was like, what is the one person that I know that knows many of people and that could help me? I'll call Heidi. So I called you.
It's a gift. I mean, it's a gift that you call.
Yes.
Yes.
Called you and you said, okay, I can help you, but I have this amazing class that I think will be right for you, and you'll meet these amazing people and they can help you also. So I was like, okay, if this is the step I have to take to get this book published and move on to the next phase of my life, I'll do it.
And as I always say, you can always leave. I mean, we always say we will cheerfully refund your misery, right? So, but try something different, right? What could you possibly lose?
And I came to class, and as I like to say, the coat started unraveling. All the coats that I had on. I didn't know it at first, but with each class, with each person's testimony, you know, because you realize that you're not in this alone.
Right.
That there's other people that are on this journey, on this path with you, you know.
Yes.
And
of their own life. Right.
But it's amazing how you feel the connection.
Because we're all so similar.
Exactly.
Right.
But you don't know at the time.
You don't.
You don't know.
Because a big part of being unhappy and being stuck is deciding you're alone.
Yes.
Right? So it's almost like you have to be committed to being alone.
Well,
right? So
you feel that this is me. This is my story. It's no one else's.
And this is my cross to bear. So for those of you who are ready to receive the passion of Wilson, please stay tuned for his incredible heart-exposing poetry.
This piece is called Looking for Love in the Inner City Blues. I'm looking for love in the inner city blues. Can anyone tell me how to find love in the inner city blues? Can anyone tell me if my transfer has ran out on lovers? You see, I was trying to catch the 39th Street bus to connect with the 71st and Prospect bus, cause someone told me that hot love was waiting on me on the avenue. Not that type of love you find in your grandma's cooking, and not that type of love you feel in your mama's hands when she's rubbing that Vicks Vapor Rub on your chest, but an inner love. An inner love that got away from me in 1979 at Martin Luther King Jr. High School, embarrassed of my erections, poking through my gym shorts, trying to think about trees and flowers to bring my Mr. Man down, knowing all it took was a smell of sweat to bring my manhood right back up. I'm looking for love. I'm looking for me. I'm looking for an inner love. Can anyone tell me how to find love in the inner city blues? Cause you see, I need to know, cause my insurance has ran out and my Prozac needs to be refilled. I'm looking for me. I'm looking for love. I'm looking for peace, an inner peace. Can anyone tell me how to find love in the inner city blues? And no, I'm not looking for Mr. Goodbar. I've had too much sex with lifeless crackheads in the backseat of my red Honda Accord downtown at Jurassic Park on 11th Street to have my mama down on her knees, praying, begging, asking God that I don't bring HIV home, to know that love does not live there anymore. You may laugh, you may even pity me, but remember this: I'm your father, I'm your brother, I'm your uncle, I'm your nephew, I'm your son, looking for love in the inner city blues, looking for me in the inner city blues. Thank you.